What is going on, everybody? It's your observant lineman, Uche Waneri. Appreciate you guys for jumping in on this live stream, Lineman Life Live. We are here today with a good friend of mine, somebody who I'm a former teammate of back in Jacksonville, and now he is the defensive backs coach for the Miami Dolphins, my boy Gerald Alexander. How you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm good, man. It's good to be a part of what you got going on, man.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. So, for those of you who don't know, me and Gerald were teammates in Jacksonville. What was that, like 3-4 years?
I was there like 2009 and 2010.
Okay, so we did 2 seasons together.
Yeah.
It felt like we played forever, man. Like those years, one of them years was a long one. One of them years was a real long one. I think that was I think that might have been the last year that we had Jack at head coach. That was a long year. That was when the team got sold. Jack got let go at like 6 games deep, something like that. I think it was right before our Monday night game against Baltimore.
Those years running together.
Yeah, they all blurred together. But no, man, we were teammates. He was a heck of a player on the defensive side, made some big plays for us, getting some picks. Always a smart, intelligent player, somebody who could read the field, who could direct traffic back there at the safety position. An asset for the team for sure. And now in his post-career life, is the defensive backs coach for the Miami Dolphins. You were defensive backs coach with the Cal Bears. Tell me about that process, man. Tell me how everything kind of moved from player to coach. Like where was the spark that set that off for you?
Really it was later on in my playing career where I didn't really know what my status was as continuing my career. And so kind of doing the free agent thing. And, when you're waiting on the call, you training, you staying ready. And then with the time that I had, this would have been going into my 6th season. I went to my high school football game back at the crib. I just moved back from Florida to Rancho Cucamonga, where I'm from, and then I ended up going to a game kind of like that Friday night. And then, just thought, hey, man, with the time that I got, I'm going to go out here and just try to, coach these guys up, see what they do, see if this coaching thing is really what I want to be a part of while I'm, trying to continue to keep my playing career alive. And then, really when it came down to it, and I knew this is what I wanted to do, I ended up having a trial with the Cowboys, and that happened on a Friday. So we had a game that night that I would have missed. I mean, obviously I would have missed it by the sign. But as I was kind of going through the process of the medical after the workout, the only thing I kept thinking was the game plan of the game that I was getting ready to coach. And I just wanted to know, my biggest answer was like, if you guys don't sign me, is there a way that you can get me on that flight so I can make that game? And so once that happened, once I kept thinking about that and really, what started on, hey, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of coach these guys, teach them a little something, I really kind of poured into it. Now I'm in staff meetings and I'm really doing whatever I can to help the squad. So I really kind of immersed myself into the coaching at the high school level just voluntarily, at the time that I had. And then, I kind of told myself, like, if that was my last snap, if I never played down football again, I want to coach. And so really when it came down to it was just kind of calling my old college coach and trying to get grad assistant opportunities. And then, got my first opportunity at Arkansas State. Got introduced that way with Brian Harsin, who's now the head coach at Auburn. He was the head coach at Arkansas State at the time. He actually just got the job. And then, from there, I went to the University of Washington with Chris Peterson, who was my head coach at college. Did a grad assistant stint there for a year. And then, in the coaching thing, I just kind of moved from year to year. Just opportunity after opportunity came. I was a GA at both places, like I just mentioned. And then my first job came really like right before the season at Indiana State. I interviewed on July 4th. They had just left. They had just had a coach that left the staff, DB coach. And, ironically, it just came down to networking, as we all know, is huge, and really any form of profession, who you know. And so the way I got that job, I had no connection to really anybody personally on the staff at Indiana State, other than I played with the dudes. I played with the head coach's son. He was an
Okay.
older quarterback. It was Mike Sanford Sr., Mike Sanford Jr. I want to say he's the offensive coordinator for Minnesota right now.
Okay.
But ironically, a couple weeks prior, and the reason why I made it a point to mention the coach that just left the staff, we did an internship together for the Tennessee Titans minicamp. It was like in the summertime.
Yeah.
And we was kind of just chopping it up, and we kind of knew some different people and all of that stuff. And then he ended up getting a job, and he went to Ohio. But he was a name that I mentioned to the head coach, because nobody wants to lose a coach in college in July, right before the season.
Yeah.
So he kind of did his coach's side. It was like, hey, there's this guy I met. He's a grad assistant at Washington. He'd be worth looking into. And I know that this is, last minute deal. Boom. And then at the same time, the defensive coordinator at Washington, who I was working under as a grad assistant, he was in Hawaii working some high school camp alongside the Indiana State defensive coordinator who happened to be there. And he's asking questions like, hey, it just kind of fell in a situation where I ended up getting an opportunity there. I was there for 4 months. I coached that season there, and then I ended up going to Montana State, working with a coach who had just left the Washington staff, who just got the head coaching job there.
So there was a lot of moving around in the same circles, though.
There was a lot of moving around in the same circles, but with a growing family, I'm moving year after year after year.
You got to find
so I was at
some
Montana
stability.
State for a season, and then I got to Cal. Well, the head coach who had just got hired, Justin Wilcox, was my defensive coordinator in college. So he gave me the opportunity to be the DB coach, and I was there for 3 years. And luckily an opportunity here came, and how that came really was I did an internship prior to my last year at Cal here for a week training camp, kind of the minority internship. Met a couple of guys, and then I don't know if you remember Taekwon Underwood. Taekwon was here as a QC, and I got a chance to meet some of those guys prior to getting the internship, because I was here in Miami visiting a guy who I worked with at Arkansas State. He was a DC for the University of Miami. So while I was in town, I went and kind of checked up with Taekwon, and he kind of showed me around the building, obviously prior to the protocols being in place. And I got a chance to meet a couple of different people, and then that kind of led to the internship opportunity, and it just fell a certain way, man. Things just kind of lined its way up, and they gave me the opportunity to do what I'm doing now, and I'm good, man. And that's kind of how. And it's, again, like we talked about earlier, this ascension is not normal. Obviously, when you go through it, there's the growing pains, there's the frustration, there's times when I was a GA, when I'm looking at the football scoop and I'm like, man, I just can't wait for my first opportunity. How come nobody's giving me an opportunity? Or, I'm at, the D1 AA's, I'm at the Montana States, I'm at the Indiana States, and man, I want to get that D1 job. I want to be able to get that. And, and I've always had the desire to get back into the NFL. Who would have thought when I first decided to be a grad assistant in 2013, I would be the DB coach in 2020 for the Miami Dolphins for an NFL team. That's not normal, and I get that. But when you kind of big me up and say, man, I saw the climb, and I feel like I've been following it since you was here, and I appreciate that. But as we all know, everything that you do, there's still work to be done. Always.
And it's funny because I knew that you had gotten the job with Miami. But my first real look at you working in your space was at the Senior Bowl. Like, what was that like? What was that like at the Senior Bowl? Like, you're coaching college players again in a kind of way, right? But as a professional coach now, so you actually are more polished and more in tune with how they should be reacting to drills and doing that. Are you evaluating in those moments the same way you would watching film on your guys, or are you understanding that, okay, look, this is an amateur player who doesn't really get the concept of, they're not natural, like a guy on an offensive lineman who's not a natural knee bender. Like, how do you explain to him how to be a knee bender when he's been doing this for all this time? And you only get such a short time to work with them in a situation like that. Like,
for me, to be honest with you, I mean, the Senior Bowl gave again, me an opportunity to teach. No
Mm-hmm.
matter who it is, no matter who I'm working with, I always got to assume that they don't know what I'm asking them to do. It's my responsibility to give them the information for them to be able to do what I'm asking them to do. Now, the beauty about it is all these guys are raw and they're hearing information for the first time. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's going back to the fundamentals, or trying to teach them the terminology, what these words mean, how we say them, when do we say them, when do they apply, differentiating the words from this coverage versus this coverage, and what we're trying to ask you to do. Now let's get into the techniques. Let's teach you guys as if you guys were our players. Of course, you're going to do some evaluating about how guys compete, about how guys do certain things. But at the end of the day, in that moment, as a position coach, they're my players. So I'm giving them the tools in order to improve their game. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, regardless of who is in our building. No matter where they came from, you can never assume. Guys come from different places, whether they come from college or come from different organizations, or even the guys that were here last year. We got to start all over. We got to try to teach these guys how to be successful and how to become better players. And so really that's what the Senior Bowl was able to kind of give us an opportunity to do, especially when there's such a long time for us in between the next time we as a coaching staff get to go develop and go actually compete in a real game. That kind of allowed us to scratch the itch a little bit after the season.
Nice. No, I definitely, I get that. I mean, you're just approaching it the same way you approach it with either side. Like it's it's kind of a one direction, one way. And I think maybe that speaks more to the kind of culture that you guys have in Miami now, because, since Brian Flores has taken over, there really has been a resurgence for Miami, and they look like a much more disciplined team. I mean, they've taken some big steps since that win against New England back in 2019 that kind of ended the season, and kind of you saw like a kind of a change and a shift in the culture at that time. Like, how do you feel about how everything comes together with the staff there?
I think that, and I got a chance again, like when I did the internship here, and this wasn't when I was a part of the organization just yet. But I was just like you. I was on the outside, and obviously I got a chance to kind of get a little bit of a preview of, how Coach Flo was and how the staff was and how they taught and how they demanded, but yet weren't demeaning. And, what I'm saying, just the whole kind of culture that was trying to be laid. Again, that was year one. And so I kind of became a real big fan of Coach Flo and how he addressed the team and how he got his guys to play. As the 2019 season, you saw them struggle. But I think that if you continue to pay attention, especially towards
you could
the
see
end
the ship was turning in the second half of the season.
You can see that they were playing hard, that they were competing. And again, how small margin of error it is between winning and losing in the NFL. But you definitely won't win if you don't play hard. And so when you saw those guys playing hard, and then those L's started to turn into W's, you saw that a culture was being being built, the foundation, and culture is just how you behave within the environment that we have. So it led to now being a part of it. It kind of goes with kind of what I believe. Same thing. We're a staff full of teachers. Our responsibility is to develop our players and give them the tools and be able to give them the tools to be successful. Whether that's and obviously we're not going to get into any specifics, but at the end of the day, if this guy doesn't get it, if said player isn't able to execute the information, well, how did I present that information? I got to present it a different way. It's my responsibility to make sure. Now, there's going to be some times where, okay, this player, hey, he can't maybe physically do it, but at the end of the day, if he can't get the information, it's not his fault. It's my fault as a coach. And so I think that we have a building full of guys, a building full of teachers that believe that way, and I think that's how we get the best out of our players.
No, that's good structure and good foundation to deal with. And for anybody who's just jumping in here, it's me and defensive backs coach for the Miami Dolphins, Gerald Alexander. Make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. We have a super chat from RC from NYC for $5. RC, what's up, man? He says, good day, Uche. Good day, coach. Good day, viewers. Hope all is well. Appreciate that, RC. RC is one of our members on the channel. He's around a lot, been around since day one, actually. Appreciate that very much, man. Got Mr. Slaughter here, another regular. He says, Coach's beard is on point. That beard, man. How many years you been growing that thing, man? That looks like a good 2 years right there.
Yeah, it's been a good amount of time, probably like
a
good 4 years. But I mean, I chop it up, cut it up, all of that stuff.
Trim it up.
Yeah. I can't be. My wife ain't gonna let me just out here just Forrest Gump it. You ain't
Man, that's crazy. No, dude. A lot of things that we're seeing right now with the league when dealing with, and I know this is going to be a little bit more of a hot button topic, but we talk a lot about some of the systems in place in the NFL when it comes to opportunities for minority coaches, right? And not necessarily to speak just towards that, but also kind of the tropes that go along with how some players are evaluated versus when it's a minority versus another athlete. And one of the things that's happened in the last few days here is you've had that whole situation with Dan Orlovsky and the comments that he reiterated that he had heard from people inside the league in regards to Justin Fields and his evaluation. And I have my own personal perspective on how I think what I think is really happening there. I know that in the mainstream realm, it's been put out there that this is the NFL, or this is there's some heat coming on Dan Orlovsky because of him bringing that out, I guess. But I honestly feel that this is a tactic that teams in the NFL use in some regards to try and force players down the board so that they can draft them. Like saying that Justin Fields doesn't have great work ethic, saying that he's a last guy in, first guy out kind of guy. I mean, those are pretty damning things for any player to be evaluated as in the NFL. Like, the one thing you don't want a coach to say about you as a player is that you're lazy, or is that you don't work hard. I mean, those can be deal breakers for your career after too long. So, for him to come out and say that he's heard that from coaches, heard that from people inside organizations, that can be, that can put an unjust label on Justin Fields, while at the same time maybe be playing into the hands of an organization that maybe wants him and puts that out into the world, and it may give them a shot if they're within the first 5 picks to snatch him up if another team doesn't. Obviously, he's fallen down the boards a little bit here in the past few days, but was early on considered the second best quarterback in the draft. So,
here's what I'll say about that. Like, when you say guys falling up, falling down, teams,
I'm talking about it to in the regular world where they think they have the perfect idea of what's happening. That's what
I'm saying. Like,
you know what I mean?
You and I both know that there's so much resource and time that go into getting information on a player, whether there was information on me coming out, you coming out, and they're going to go at lengths to talk to really anybody in order to get the right amount of information that they need to feel good with, basically allowing really anybody into their organization, player, person, whatever. There could be some things that are said or put out there in the public, but that, who knows if that really matters in the public eye. Obviously, if you have certain guys who feel like they're the expert, the draft is the most unpredictable thing that we all know.
Yeah,
every draft expert can be wrong at the end of the day.
Draft experts generally don't have the right idea.
It's a great job because you can be wrong and nobody cares. But at the end of the day, everybody's going to do their homework. They're going to do the necessary things that they feel are in the best interest of the organization, regardless of public opinion. And then, hey, everybody can be wrong. Everybody can be right. Everybody can have an opinion. That doesn't necessarily mean, at the end of the day, your interaction with anybody is you're going to have your own experience with that person, and you're going to have your own opinion about that person. Somebody else might have caught them on a bad day or caught them on a bad day where they feel like, okay, they feel like he's this kind of person, or this kind of, the tape, as far as the player itself, the tape will never lie. You can always evaluate the tape to figure out who this guy is. And the biggest thing in the evaluation is the person, because as we all know that this is a profession and you can't just do this for money.
Yeah.
You have, there's
no way to just do it. There's no way to do it like that.
Money, because this is a man's game.
It's asking more of you than money. Like the game asks for everything from you. 100%. Not, money you can only play for money for a certain portion of that whole pie of your football life. Because once you get into it, it's your body being demanded. You're demanding your body to operate a certain way. You're demanding your mindset to operate a certain way, to be in a certain routine, to be at a certain level of just awareness of everything that's going on around you. And you can't put really a dollar amount on that. That's a dedication thing. That's a mental thing.
It takes a life commitment.
It takes a life commitment. Yes.
Your lifestyle. And this is one thing that I wish maybe I could tell my 21-year-old self. And, you play with me. I was a pretty mature player. But I wish I could have even been more into, putting all my commitment in. Because, as you know, once you get away from the game, and then there's so much life to it.
There's so much distractions for you.
Very, very small. Yeah. And so whether it be a nutritional deal or your habit, your friends, the people, just everything into that.
The recovery, everything.
All of that. It takes that in order to continue to improve. It takes all of that. So if you're, you always hear kind of chase the bag or secure the bag, that's great. The money's going to happen. It's going to happen. No matter what field you're in, if you just continue to work, and there's going to be pitfalls, there's going to be frustrations along the way. But if you just continue to work and prove, eventually your value is going to continue to increase because you're going to be doing your job that much better over the course of time, which, in our league, it's timing is also everything. You got to stay
timing
healthy.
Is everything. You got to be healthy.
You guys sometimes hit it at the right time. You got to play your best season at the right moment. But a lot of the times that, no matter what, that's also kind of been built through hard work. And again, like we talked about earlier, it just takes a life commitment in order to be able to excel. To anything, but especially in this league.
Yeah, this football is a little bit different when it comes to level of competition and results, because there are a lot of people who will work their ass off. There's a lot of people who will put in a lot of time and they still won't make it. It's not necessarily because they weren't putting in the work. Yeah, absolutely. It's not a guarantee. It's the only job. It's one of the few jobs where hard work doesn't necessarily pay off. But it gives you a chance. It does give you a chance. And as we both know, it's hard work and production. Yeah. You can work your ass off and get into the game and still freeze up. And that's a comfort thing for some people. And, and some people aren't able to get over that. So it can affect their career.
Yeah. Especially with, confidence, you always have to, your hard work should demonstrate having the ability to be confident and do the job. But a lot of guys, they get in games and they overthink it, or they don't want anything bad to happen. Of course you don't. And so that's kind of my responsibility. That's why I really wanted to get into the league as much as I did. There's always, we can get into college ball a little bit later, but the reason why I wanted to get into the league so much is just because of that in particular. For one, taking a young dude, kind of shifting his mindset to make sure that he's on the right track, eliminating a lot of the distractions, talking about the life commitment that it takes, but also obviously giving him the confidence to go out there and go make a play. The one thing that I always say to my players, and I've said this for a long time, I want guys who play to win versus playing not to lose. And I look at my own career sometimes where there might have been moments where, you didn't want that bad situation to happen, or I didn't want that ball to be caught. And I did the safe thing instead of, going to go aggressively go make a play to win versus play not to lose. And that's a mindset. And there's a huge difference between the two, but it's very small, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It takes kind of taking that leap of faith one time, Now it
Right.
can work out one of two ways. It can either work out well and you make a play, you force an incompletion, or you get up on that second level linebacker and move him out of the hole as a lineman, and you stepped over that little barrier of quote unquote fear, and now you know what it feels like to play without that fear and be successful. And then and you try and build on that. But then there's sometimes where and everybody's affected by this differently, but there's some, and there are times when you do the same thing and you miss, and you're off, and maybe you give up a big play, or maybe you give up a tackle for a loss or a sack, and it's usually the player who is going to build and grow at an accelerated rate. It's the ability to learn from that failure on that play, so that you have more of the wins than you do of the losses. And there are players who, and it's never 100% thing. There are players who on one end they had a couple of losses and it kind of ruined their mind state, like it wrecked their head, so they were never able to come back from it fully. And there are some guys who maybe were doubtful or questioned themselves early on, but then they took a couple of those risks and they paid off, and that changed the player that they were. That changed who they were from top to bottom. Now they're playing with the level of confidence that you didn't see before, and then they're certain that they can do that every time that they attempt it. Even if they don't get it, they still feel like their odds are much better. And those are the players who go on to be the more consistent players as they play on.
Right. And a lot of times, it's my job, and I think about this as a coach, especially as a DB coach, because, at the end of the day, you're going to get a ball caught on you. You're going to give up a touchdown. I mean, the failure is going to happen.
You're going to fail.
It's going to happen over and over again. And it's for me to continue to kind of demand, but, continue to encourage and not go ballistic when something bad happens. The only thing that would really, really piss me off is something that we can control, like a miscommunication that led to something bad. If you're in good position, or effort, 100%, or effort. But if there's a situation, and I know coaches that are like this, like, oh man, you can't get beat deep, and they go crazy when it happens. But if a guy's in good position, but the response sometimes from the coach can ultimately affect the player's mindset, where nobody wants to get yelled at, or nobody wants to do anything that's they feel like is gonna hurt the team. So the way that it's no different than how coaches sometimes have to speak to quarterbacks, or certain as me as I got to speak to a corner. It's like I'm not gonna talk to him and make sure and affect that guy's confidence. Like, hey man, hey, they got it. Let's keep going. No big deal. Hey man, let's keep rolling. Let's keep obviously you can have too much of that, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey man, let's just keep competing. Just keep competing. Hey, just keep competing. Keep looking back for the ball. Keep going to make plays. Keep doing that. So now you continue to empower this guy. You continue to encourage this guy to take those risks. It's like, hey, let's continue to believe in our hard work that we put in, versus let's not think about the bad result. I don't want you to think about the bad result. I want you to play to win. Go get the ball. Don't worry about him. At this point, you've done everything you needed to do. Go get the ball, versus don't let him catch it. There's a huge difference in a coach where you say, no, you cannot. You cannot allow him to catch this ball, versus, oh man, go get it.
Yeah.
Play to win versus play not to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, just kind of looking ahead, well, not really looking ahead, looking back, really. You guys made a hell of a move here recently to move up in the draft. Can you shed any light on just what was the end game in that, in making that trade with the Jets, correct?
Bro,
or they're not? Or,
I don't know nothing about that.
You don't know nothing about it.
I don't know nothing. I mean, I know what happened, but hey, man, I'm a coach who's in the room. My job is to make sure that the DBs that we have, they become better players.
Who'd y'all make? Who was it with? I forget.
Bro, I don't even know.
I think it was either the Jets or the Niners, I think.
Bro, I don't even know. You can go on Google, I'm pretty sure, and find it. But at the end of the day, those are things that, again, we have people in our organization who are going to do everything that they can to improve our organization, our team. And NFL business happens. At the end of the day, my job is My job is to do my responsibility, do my 111. As we say on defense, like you got to do your 111. Uh, and that's it. And I know that
Niners.
Chris Greer and that personnel staff and all those guys. Again, everybody has the vision on making sure our team improves, and I'm going to do my part to do so.
No, that's great. That's great. So, what about you keeping up with basketball? You keeping up with the tournament at all?
You know what? I didn't watch a lot of the tournament like
Gonzaga.
I wanted to. I saw the second half of the Gonzaga UCLA game. Man, that was an amazing shot that kid hit.
Yeah, that was a crazy shot, and I was looking at that, and I kind of was thinking about defensive backs because I'm like, wow, you just let him shoot uncontested. He did kind of shoot uncontested. The guy that was defending him kind of jumped off to the side when he launched into the air, but
the worst thing you want is a foul in that situation.
You don't want a foul in that situation, but man, I feel like you can't give him a
shot either. I mean,
yeah,
guy
true.
It's a shot from half court.
He banked it too.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of those, and I kind of sent out a tweet about that. It's like, man, that's one of those shots where like everybody has, shot a clothes in the dirty clothes hamper, or shot a little paper ball in the trash can and got
from way off
down.
and
didn't
even expect it to go in, but it just hits.
And you just hit, you just threw some paper in the trash, and you happy that you made it. And now this dude just sent his team to the Natty on really somewhat of a prayer.
On a prayer for real.
On a prayer, but it's one of those things that it's always, I guess, especially when you talk about college sports, and the tournament in particular, and really sports in general, not just college sports. For me, I always love seeing like the euphoric reaction of like a game winner,
winner,
or just a champ, or somebody winning a championship. Just that because no matter what the sport is, it could be hockey, it could be golf. There's especially as a former athlete, the work that needs to get put in individually, let alone collectively. When you have a team,
and you need a little bit of luck in some areas. You need
a little bit of luck, and a lot of the luck has to do with maybe playing your best ball at the right time or staying somewhat injury free. In our sport, obviously injuries come all the time, but you got to be playing your best ball at the right time. Let's look at kind of similar to what UCLA was doing. UCLA came in as the first 4 seed. They was in the first 4 game. And they was able to get hot throughout the tournament, and they was, really a prayer away from playing tonight. So, a lot of that happens in sports. Look at Tampa Bay last year. Tampa Bay had some struggles during the regular season. They got blown out by the Saints, and and those guys improved along the way, and they went on a run. They played ball. They played their best ball at the right time. Especially with the marathon season that we have in the NFL, you got to be playing your best ball in the end. You don't want your best ball to be played in September.
What do you think about that 17th game? I mean, that's been the addition of games during the regular season has been a hot topic, especially when it comes to, with the PA and the CBA deals. And this past CBA from 2020, they agreed finally to add one game, to be able to add one game at any point in the 10-year span of the CBA. And, I know we, as players, we've always had very strong positions on just how, the kind of extra strain that can put on players. We saw a number of players go down in the playoffs this past season. The Kansas City Chiefs, that was one of their biggest, it was one of the biggest things that handicapped them in the Super Bowl, was losing 3 out of their 5 starters. With the last main starter at left tackle being lost in the playoff game before the Super Bowl, late in the game. So there is always an added risk of injury, and injuries in the NFL. For you to be injured. I mean, you're talking about high ankle or a ligament sprain like an MCL, maybe or a muscle, really to be out, a muscle tear or a ligament tear. And those have been, I feel like those happened at a much higher rate this year because of the lack of proper training camp, lack of proper preseason. because as much as we hate them, there's still a need for it, just for getting the body in the condition of being on a field and playing football. And when you have those long breaks where the body kind of relaxes back into a more passive state, trying to restart that engine and rev up those muscles again, you see guys having stability issues in their, in those critical points like the knees. So adding a game, I guess my question is, where do you stand as far as adding a game from the perspective as a former player, but also as a coach? Like, that's another opportunity as a coach to try and go out and accomplish something. But for players, what's your perspective on how that is going to affect future seasons?
I really don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to view it from a player's perspective because I'm so tied into my perspective of it. It's just another opportunity for us to try to accomplish the goals we set out to accomplish. I mean, I think everybody knew that this was going to happen. So, I mean, it was just one of those things where you were kind of waiting for this to be official. I'm sure the players have their own view of it. At the end of the day, you kind of hope to be playing 17 games anyway, because that meant you were playing in the wild card playoff or you were playing in the divisional, and you were kind of going on a run.
Well, now that's just a regular season game. That's
right,
not
it's a regular,
season
game, and I get that, but again, like for me, from my perspective, it's no different than week one. It's just another week of the season where, again, we're trying to do the necessary things to get into the tournament.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you get to that 17th game and you kind of have that opportunity already in place, then yeah, you have those teams that kind of make those decisions of what you want to do with your players. I mean, that's kind of tradition at this point. But I don't really have an opinion about it at all. We kind of knew it was coming, and at the end of the day, here's another Sunday, man. We get to go out there and play.
I hear that. That's another opportunity. We got a question here from Keenan. He says, "Hey, coach, you think mobile QBs like Tua and Lamar Jackson are better to train young DBs or throw them into the fire against guys like Brady and Rodgers?"
Are better to train? No, I mean, I think anybody that plays quarterback at this level, they have the ability to, shred you. You know what I'm saying? They can shred your secondary. So it's not like, okay, I'm gonna have this guy playing against this quarterback, but not this quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We play the best guys who are available for us to do what we need to do defensively to win the game or put ourselves in position to be successful. So, I wouldn't say that there's a quarterback that you want to play, a young guy against more than the other. At the end of the day, my first snap was looking across from Peyton Manning. So it just that just is what it is. It just happens that way. So, again, you just gotta train your guys to be ready, and at the end of the day, they have to be able to execute whatever the game plan is, regardless of who the guy on the other side is pulling the trigger.
Oh, I hear you. You got to teach your guys what they need to know. So what else is going on, man? What else is going on? You guys, you can't, you got the draft coming up here soon. What is, is there any schedule that you guys are going on now that maybe, I mean, is there still a protocol? First off, I guess with the whole pandemic situation, and
right now the players, the players aren't here yet. The offseason hasn't started. So from a coaching standpoint, now it's off season. It's just, this is my first off season as an NFL coach. Obviously from the college ranks where a lot of recruiting responsibility is really, at the forefront, when it's the off season outside of spring football. But, it's really getting ready for the off season. Obviously the draft is what the draft is. We have to do our evaluations and look at the guys. And, after the season, that's kind of really sometimes our first introduction of who these guys are. I know guys pay attention to college ball, and the draft analysts kind of know these guys because they pay attention to college football. But for us to find the truth, we got to watch the tape, and so that sometimes right when the season happens, right when the season's over, we get a chance to evaluate these guys throughout the process, and then kind of put our specific 2 cents on who we feel like that they are. Doesn't mean they were right or doesn't mean they were wrong. And then at the same time, we want to do our own self-evaluation of what we were doing last year. And, what worked, what didn't, what we need to do to get better, how we need to improve as a unit, how I, as a position coach, maybe have to improve certain individuals based on what they did, how I can improve as a teacher, how I can, just kind of really self-evaluation, and at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, it's spending all that time. And then as we get into the off season, you kind of get into being able to work with these guys again in somewhat of a slowed down environment. There's no games coming up soon. So, you can really start to detail maybe some of the teaching. A lot of it is going to be really time lost, especially last year because we didn't get that time. So it's able to work with our guys on that level and, just start to create the building blocks, man, to hopefully what could be a successful 2021.
That definitely is coach talk right there. I can feel that. That's looking at it from A to B, point A to point B. That's what we're trying to do. We're not worried about nothing else. We're not worried about.
It's hard to, man.
Yeah, I know
it's really hard because as a player, it's just such a different mindset, because as a coach, I'm thinking like, all right, what can I do now that obviously affects the big picture, and it could be every little detail, and I didn't realize. I mean, not that I didn't realize detail mattered, but detail, as we know, matters a lot, and we have more time in the NFL versus being in college to kind of talk about the details in our position, whether it be hand placement, obviously backpedaling, and talking about coverage structures and how this affects this and who's dropping where and who's doing what, communication, all of that stuff, and just really be able to really break that all the way down to improve somebody, and just even if it's just a little bit, and
a little bit might come into play
a
at
little bit
a
might come
big
into
point.
play. It might be one of those things where, hey, we've talked about this, and maybe the guy's done it, and he really has done it, but he really didn't know why, and it really hasn't registered to him. Yeah, of course he's going to do it the way I tell him, but he doesn't really understand why
You don't
I
know
need him
why
to do
he's
it
doing it
specifically this way. And that's my responsibility, is to make sure that he understands why. And then maybe they have that aha moment, like, oh, got it. And now they get it. Now they're able to do it maybe at a faster pace, faster level, higher level.
They start anticipating better.
Exactly. They go from thinking to anticipating, and now we can grow from there. And then it's my job for him to be able to take the application from practice and be able to execute it in the game.
No, that's how it is. At the top level, there's a point where that light clicks on, and then you just kind of like, I remember when it happened for me as a player, I was just like, oh, now I get it. Now it makes sense. Now I know why I'm doing it. Now I just did it the right way, like knowing why I'm doing that. And that made the game like that much easier. And I mean, it's never easy, but it made it easier to play it without second guessing yourself midway through a play. Because sometimes, as a young player, that happens a lot. Sometimes you're like, am I sure this is the right thing to do?
Right.
And sometimes you try to slow play it. That don't work. Sometimes you try to play in between it. That doesn't work. But then when you just like, even if you have a slight second thought, if you just say, you know what, I'm going, and you go, and it works the right way. Again, you built that confidence. Now you know that you know. Now that you know you can do it without thinking anymore.
The thing that gets me up and be passionate about doing what I'm doing, because you just kind of made a facial gesture like, oh, aha, and then it made it easier for you. The person that's responsible to get you there is me. You know what I'm saying? So as a coach, like, it's my job to make you get to that point where you slow the game down because of understanding. And you get it and you know it. And so that's what drives me, is being able to give that person those tools of information in order for them to feel confident to go out there and execute what we just worked on. And there's different avenues. There's different ways that people learn. Some guys are visual guys. Some guys are rep guys. Some guys are, it's all the things that I need to do as a teacher. Again, we talked about the Senior Bowl. It's all my job as a teacher is to get you to that point where you feel confident, where you feel you feel knowledgeable, where you feel like you're able to apply the information because you know the information, and more importantly, you know the why. So if I can tell you the why, then you can believe it. This is a different generation of player, as you know, where these guys want to know why. I can go on Google and find out any answer to any question that I have. So for somebody to just say, "Hey, do this because I said so," that no
Yeah,
longer
that's
works.
not that's not enough.
That's no longer real. That's no longer coaching.
Yeah,
Whereas
and
when
I
we were
always felt
younger,
like good coaches explained why. Like, my O-line coach in Jacksonville was Andy Heck. Andy Heck was the O-line coach for Kansas City.
yep,
And, that was always like the foundation of his teaching process was, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And how do you do it consistently? Like, what kind of drill work do you need to do to do it consistently? What kind of film do you need to watch to do it consistently? There's always those parts of it can be looked at almost like work, just the monotony of work. But to understand why you're doing it means you're actually evolving into the philosophy of the coach of the offense of the game plan itself. Like, you start to understand what the offense is trying to do to attack this defense, what the defense is trying to do to prevent the offense from having certain options on the field. Like, that plays into a player being able to evolve themselves like that, to raise your football IQ. You raise that by understanding better what your opponent is trying to do, why they're
yeah,
trying to do that.
absolutely. That's exactly it. So that's what I feel like is my responsibility. And I did this, I kind of did this at the collegiate level, and I had some great coaches, and I've learned some things along the way that kind of has my coaching philosophy the way it is. And it's not just what to do; it's why, and it's why it's applicable, and it's why if you do it this way, this is where you can be unsuccessful, and if you do it this way, you can be successful. Now, just like we talked about earlier, everything's not a guarantee. Sometimes they're gonna make a play, but
Mm,
at least you can go out there and understand and anticipate and know and react to what you see because you understand the responsibility of what you're doing and where to look and how you're going to be attacked. And
mm,
so where you can be aggressive, where you can be conservative. And so, not that every single rookie is going to get the full plate right away of information,
mm-hmm.
but it is, as we all know, it's a process. It's going to be a process for you to get to that. Oh, aha, I get it now. I get whether it's the whole thing or just that defense or that
Yeah,
offense or that play. So that's what I love about coaching is really
yeah,
the teaching aspect. And I didn't know that this is what I wanted to get myself into, but kind of like what I was telling you earlier, I kind of found it out early because I have a drive to try to do whatever I can to get you to that moment.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, we do got some breaking news. This actually is just hitting right now. This is out of ESPN. New York Jets have just traded Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers for 3 draft picks. Let's see here. They traded it. Uh, let's see. Number 3 overall pick and just received 3 picks, a 6th rounder in 2021, a 2nd and a 4th in 2022. Ooh, that value kind of went through the basement there on Sam Darnold. A 6th and or what a let me see, a 6th rounder and a 2nd and 4th in 2022. So Sam Darnold is out of New York. So this clearly, I think this looks like it's going to clear the way for them to pick up Zach Wilson, the BYU quarterback, obviously. What do you think about that? Just looking at that, just at face value.
Just to be somebody new playing the quarterback position in our division. It's what it is.
Because
So
that directly affects you guys, right?
I
With
mean,
the
I don't.
Jets. So
Other than who's going to be playing quarterback for him, that's the only thing that would affect us. But again, man, this is the time when NFL business is done and stuff like that. And you hope a guy like Sam is able to, get his career going in a positive way at that position. Obviously he's been a good player for for a long time when he was in college. And, sometimes things just don't work itself out. And we've all been players, things don't work itself out. You go to a new team and maybe some things do work itself out. And so
I
he's got a
think that's
staff over
true.
there. He's got a
I
staff
think
over
that's
there in
true.
Carolina who's fresh, with Matt Rule. And I'm pretty sure those guys they have a plan for him. And, we'll see.
And, if you would have told me, if I would have never seen any film on Sam Darnold, I would have been like, well, this guy's a bum. You know what I mean? But I've actually watched a few games with this guy, and that kid can throw the ball. I watched him put the ball on the money on a number of different occasions where that was a hard throw to make for any quarterback, and he put it on the money, and his guy drops it. I saw a lot of drops, for him. And I mean, look, that franchise, Adam Gase did them no favors at all. He did to them what he almost did to the Dolphins, actually. So they are working with a cursed deck of cards, I think, at this point. And actually, I think this is an opportunity for Sam Darnold to actually revive his career, because I do think he has potential to be. I think he still can be a starting quarterback. I think that these first few years in New York, everybody thought that they were going to be hard years, of course, but nobody knew that it was going to be that bad. Like, there was so much that was dysfunctional on the field for that team that it didn't really matter what the quarterback did. He didn't have the pieces to really make an impact for the team, for the better. I think going to Carolina, he's going to have some weapons. He's going to have some weapons in the backfield. Christian McCaffrey. They've got some issues on the O-line, but they've still got solid interior. This basically means that Teddy Bridgewater is in a win or go home, should be in a win or go home mentality as a quarterback, because now that's a direct message that there's going to be a quarterback competition there, because you've got two high draft pick quarterbacks, both in kind of the same mode, one a little bit deeper in than the other, but both kind of in that same, we need to prove that we still have what it takes in this league to be a starter. So it's going to be a competition at the highest level. Again, that's just kind of how the ball bounces in the NFL. It's all about competing. It's all about production. If you go out there and you compete at a high level and you produce at a high level, then that's where, we'll find out which one of those quarterbacks is going to be moving forward for their franchise. But I mean, Sam Darnold is still in his rookie contract. So that just tells you how bad I think that this is a move that benefits him more than it puts his career in a position of potential jeopardy, at least as a starter. But the Jets obviously want to reset again. And they're about as close to being Jacksonville as you could be right now in terms of just the eagerness to restart the franchise, to do a reset.
I think specifically for Sam, it gives him an opportunity to compete in a different location, and sometimes, just a fresh start somewhere and a fresh opportunity can kind of reignite the drive and the fire. Not to say that he didn't have it where he just came from, and you wish the success for that guy. Being a former player, I always wish for the success. Unless you're playing us, I always wish for the success of certain guys, or really guys, period. To be able to play in this league for as long as they can. And so you hope the best for him. You hope the opportunity would be good for him, and it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see kind of him and what he does in a new setting. So,
no, man, I think you're 100% correct in that. Sometimes it just takes new scenery to be able to put yourself to kind of give yourself a fresh go mentally, which I think that's what he needs at this point. I think right now for him it'd be easy enough to do that, because you kind of recognize the situation for what it was after 2 years in, and knowing that the franchise was just not heading in the right direction there, getting that trade and being shipped out. That's like, okay, now I can reset, I can restart. There's another player in Matthew Stafford, who's also kind of gotten that same kind of second lease on life. And that dude, he's been out there in Detroit putting in work for over a decade. And now he finally gets a chance to go somewhere where that fire can be reignited for him. I mean, I think he knew what it was at the end of his time with Detroit, but Sam Darnold, I think he's in a similar situation. Obviously, two different times of their careers, but it's better to have it right then early in your rookie contract if I'm Sam Darnold than to have it happen, after you've put in a lot of your best years, which Matthew Stafford has put in a lot of his prime years with a lot of other players who were in their prime years and just not able to get it done. And now they get a chance to reinvigorate, and to for one of them finish on a good note, for the other to try and build a legacy for himself. So, I'll be interested to see how that pans out. But Gerald Alexander, brother, I appreciate you being in here today. What you got meetings going on after this or what? Because you're in the building.
Trying to make the organization better, man. So just not gonna burn the midnight oil. Again, we don't have a game anytime soon.
Yeah.
But again, man, just doing the necessary things that need to be done in order for our organization, our team to become better.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well, man, I'm proud of you, dude, and I really do appreciate you coming on, talking with me about what's been going on with you, talking with me about what's going on right now in the football world. And love to have you come back on again before you guys ship off into OTAs and training camp later on in the summer. But no, dude, I really appreciate it, man. Really do appreciate you.
Appreciate the time, man. Good seeing you. Good talking to you. Good getting a chance to hop on the pod, man. And keep doing your thing, man. Keep doing your thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everybody, we are done. We are done with it now from here. Appreciate you guys for coming in to the Lineman Life Live podcast. I'm your observant Lineman Uche. Whenever, make sure you hit that like button, smash that like button, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. We'll be back to doing this regularly on our Monday schedule, as we did before. Obviously, with the charity event that we had a couple weeks back, and that whole Snyder Cut situation leading up to the Snyder Cut charity event kind of took us off our schedule, but we're going to be back onto that starting obviously with this one and moving forward. So make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified each and every time that we are getting ready to go live. But I appreciate you guys for coming in, and we will check you out on the next one. Everybody have a good one. Peace.